Today, we want to check, why will someone be in an abuse and the person is just grounded there, is just stuck there when you can actually walk away? So it's a question that baffles many. Why will you remain there? Why, when you are being treated this way, that way, and you're unhappy and you feel cheated and you feel this and that, why are you still there? I think that's what we want to discuss about today. Am I correct, Veronica?
Yeah, why do you not leave?
Why doesn't she just leave? Yes.
And I think the way that the question is asked, Olu, is really, really important. But I just want to do something this morning that I feel that is really important, considering we've been on this journey for so many weeks. And at the beginning of the journey, we defined what domestic abuse is. And I feel that it's fair and it's just for us to just remind those that didn't start out with us, but those that have joined us along the way, just to remind people what the definition of domestic abuse is, if that's okay with you.
Please.
Wonderful. So to define domestic abuse, domestic violence is a systematic pattern of behavior on the part of the abuser designed to control their partner. The abuse can be physical, we've talked about that, emotional, psychological, financial, sexual. Most of these things we've been talking about in previous weeks. Anyone who forces or tries to alter the behavior of another by maybe frightening them, intimidating them, that person potentially could be abused. But how do you know if you are being abused by any of these things? One, it causes fear. Two, you're doing things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. You're doing it to appease, you're doing it to please. You're doing it because you feel coerced into doing it. And you feel that you don't have the power to say no to these things. So domestic abuse is rarely, and I say this time and time again, a one-off incident. Incidents generally become more frequent and more severe over time. Domestic violence, domestic abuse, as Ulu quite rightly said, can happen to anyone, regardless of your creed, your colour, ethnicity, age, religion, sexuality. It encompasses everyone. There's no one's exempt because you live here and I live here, or because I have this status and you have that status, because I'm this color and you're that color. There's no partiality whatsoever. Anybody can suffer from domestic abuse. So that's domestic abuse defined. And going back to what Ulu said this morning, he said, why would somebody stay? And straight away, because it's my profession, you know, I'm a domestic abuse specialist, straight away my back kind of goes up and my antennas as well. And I'll tell you the reason why. The reason behind that is not that you ask the question, Ulu, but it's how you ask the question. So if you know that somebody is in an abusive relationship and you say, why'd you stay? Why are you still in that relationship? You should just leave. Then you're actually saying that they can just leave at any point, and you're kind of alluding to the fact that you might be blaming them for remaining in the relationship because you don't have that understanding, neither the compassion to understand why someone would stay in an abusive relationship. But there are multiple reasons why people do stay in abusive relationships. And that's what we're going to be talking about and exploring more today, and putting the spotlight on why people do not leave abusive relationships. And I just want to remind our listeners that although we tend to concentrate, or our language tends to focus on the female gender, But I just want to say that it isn't just domestic abuse doesn't just affect females. It affects the male gender as well. So we know throughout the show that things may be, might strike a nerve. The subject is quite emotive. You may not have realized that you're in an abusive relationship, or there's things that we discuss that resonates with you. But we're not here to open you up and just leave you there, you know, open up wounds and to leave you there. We say seek help, and we are here to help those that are suffering from domestic abuse and domestic violence. A majority of the time when we hear about domestic abuse, or we see a post, or we see something that's being promoted, it usually says break the silence, because it's usually something that happens behind closed doors. Nobody else knows that they are suffering from abuse. But we want to encourage you, if you are suffering from domestic abuse, get help. Get help, seek help. If you are the perpetrator of domestic abuse and, you know, it's a repetition in your behavior, there is help also out there for you equally. And I just felt that I needed to say that from the offset.